Why is storytelling an essential skill for founders at every stage?
If you are a founder with already billions of dollars in your coffer, maybe storytelling won't mean a thing for you. But how many percentage of the founders in the world are in that situation? I would say none. So
Mhm.
that's why you need to be able to articulate your mission, your vision, what your product does in order to get support that you need.
I have always felt, Jenny, that storytelling is the skill that the founder can't ignore,
That's
and
right.
it is a buzzword also today. So, from your lens, what is the storytelling?
Oh, great question. That question will lay the foundation for the rest of the podcast. Well,
Yes.
storytelling, I like to say, it's actually just part of life. All of us, we're not living individual, we're living in a group setting, we're living in a community. And in order to live with harmony, we have to talk to each other, and sometimes we might have to convince each other to do something. So when we're able to storytell, we're able to form that connection, and we're able to elicit the desired action from the people that we speak with. For example, I mean, yes, we all know that a founder, he or she goes to pitch. Part of the storytelling, the illicit desire is to get funding from the investor. But this morning, when I asked my nephew to pick up his socks, I'm also trying to elicit an action from him. When we're trying to
Right.
decide where to go for a family vacation, whether it be Hawaii or Canada, again, that storytelling that requires skill to say why we should go, what will be the cost of inaction if we don't go, how would it make people feel if we end up going together, and paint that picture for everybody. So to answer your question, storytelling is a way of life.
So basically, then communication and communicating to somebody is asking that person to get some desired result or outcome.
That's
This is
right.
how you approach it, right? Okay.
That's right. That's right. um
So now,
when,
yeah, go ahead.
oh no, go ahead, please.
Yeah. So now let's talk about the founder journey. Why is storytelling an essential skill for founders at every stage, whether they are fundraising, they are not fundraising, they are team building? Why it is so important in today's world?
Very, if you are a founder with already billions of dollars in your coffer, maybe storytelling won't mean a thing for you, because all you have to do is self-fund, bootstrap, sell your product into the market, and if you incur loss, doesn't matter. You still have a couple of billions in your bank account. But how many percentage of the founders in the world are in that situation? I would say none. So
Mhm.
that's why you need to be able to articulate your mission, your vision, what your product does, and why it means so much to you in order to get support that you need, whether it be money, whether it be mentorship, whether you're trying to attract the right talent to join your team, or you're trying to attract the right clients so you could have good testimonials. All that requires storytelling. None of us are mind readers, and we should not expect other people to be our mind readers. Just because you know in your heart that you have a great product, if you don't say it, if you don't articulate it, it doesn't matter. It's as if it doesn't exist.
So, generally, at times, for technical founders, it is very difficult to have the same level of acumen or savviness when it comes to storytelling. So, what are the steps? How they can learn it? That how to articulate what they are building in plain, simple English for the
There,
investors, for the co-founders, for the first 10 employees to understand, attract, and join. How they can do.
Great question. And I get asked that all the time. Before I answer that, I want to share a quote by one of the greatest tech innovators who happened to be one of the best marketers of all time. His name is Steve Jobs. And he has said, the most powerful person in the room, not the CEO, not the engineer, but it's the storyteller. It's because the storyteller moves the needle. Now, does Steve Jobs know about tech? Oh, of course he does. Does he understand engineering? Absolutely, he does. But the magic that he has is he's able to think outside the box and to conjure enough empathy. So when he explains the technology to the customer or to the journalist or to the investors, he understands how to package it up so people who are not technical will understand you. When I was a reporter, one of the rule of thumbs that we often hear our editors tell us is write your story to the point that even your grandmother understands it.
Mhm.
Um, so so that's the overall of like why you need to be why you need to simplify. Simplify does not mean to dumb it down. It means to make it clear. When you have confusion, you have chaos. Human beings don't like chaos. In fact, we run away from chaos. That's part of a survival. So your job as a founder or your job as someone who pitch to anyone is to remove chaos and to increase that psychological safety. When you use big words, when you use technical jargon that people don't understand, what does that create? Confusion. Okay,
Mhm.
so one of the examples that I often use is when I was in high school and I had to write a paper for a science class. And the sentence I used was, when we have too much, I wrote something like precipitation descending from the atmosphere. And I got the paper back, I got a big old C and then next to that sentence, my teacher said, "Do you mean rain?"
Mhm.
So that's an example of you're trying to use big words. Yes, you're able to say those words and good for you. But if it's rain, call it rain. If your AI agent is a digital assistant that helps you engage with your customer, call it that. Do not go to something big and something technical. Save that for when you're interviewing an engineer. Test them. But when you're talking to a when you're talking to an investor, when you're talking to a journalist, use words that people can understand because that creates connection and eliminates chaos.
Yeah, and I feel that communication is the differentiator why humans are humans. And if we can communicate clearly, we can easily build ambassadorship in
That's
our listener, who becomes your ambassador to promote you in various ways. If they understand you, if they truly articulate what you told them. So,
100%. 100% agree with you. When you go out to pitch, the chance an investor immediately says yes, I'll cut you a check right now, that chance is not very high. They might have to go back to their team and to explain to them what they heard at the pitch day. They might have to justify to their boss. They might have to convince the other investors to join in. And so if you're able to turn them into your ambassador, you're halfway there. And so it goes back to the way you story tell. If you're able to uh, deliver something that's clear, that's relatable, and repeatable, then the chance of turning the listener into ambassador will be much, much higher. Um, One of the rules that I have is that I often advise my clients do not have a press conference on a Friday afternoon. And why is that? One, people are ready for the weekend. Two, if they hear something on Friday afternoon, they have to wait at least 48 hours before they go to work on Monday to share what they heard. That mandate is quite heavy. And so, unless your product is super amazing, it's like the next iPhone Plus, then
mhm.
you want to make sure that you catch people at the time and give them information that is clear, relatable, and repeatable. So when they go back to work on Monday or the next day, they could quickly articulate that it accurately represents you.
Great. Let me ask you this, Jenny. What are the key elements of storytelling that the founder should master early?
Okay, good. So the four key elements of storytelling or communication are the four C's. You have consistency, conciseness, credibility, and connection. So I want to start with conciseness. I think the words explain itself. Again, just kind of like we said earlier, if you use big words, if you go on and on and on, you will lose your audience. I think many investors have a unwritten rule um, that if someone cannot explain their product clearly within 15 seconds, there's a big X in their
Yeah.
in their front. It's like, wow, if you can't even tell me what you're about in 15 seconds, you probably don't know what you're talking about. If
Right.
people have to decipher and dig out what they're hearing from you, chances are they're not listening anymore. You have already lost the audience. And
Mhm.
so simplify your sentence. If you could say it in 3 words, don't say it in 10. Um, Conciseness is also, so that's the outward manifestation of conciseness, is that you're able to cut down your words,
Mhm.
cut down the time for people to understand you. But don't forget that when you are able to be a concise person, you're giving off the signal that you are a very methodical person. And investors like it when they could perceive this person as someone who is time efficient, who is clear, and who understands its product clearly. Secondly, about consistency. If you
Mhm.
start your pitch that your AI agent is to bolster customer engagement, then make sure throughout your pitch you stick to that central theme. I mean, I think you and I have been to a couple of pitches where the founder starts with one thing and it just go off to a tangent on something else. Again, the outward manifestation is that you have gone off tangents and that you're not sticking to your point. But the message you're sending is you don't follow through, that you're not sure what you're doing, and that you tend to wander off. As an investor, again, that could be a big red mark in my book. Credibility is something technically and in theory is very easy to do. Because what's credibility? Credibility means being an honest person. Say what you
Right.
have. Be honest with what you have. Be honest with your number. Be honest with your traction. Be honest with the customers you have already served. Be honest with the ability of your team to solve problem. However, it's not always done easily because a lot of founders forget that they need to back up their credibility. If you're here to say that my pen is the best pen in the world, it could be the best pen in the world, but just by saying that doesn't mean a whole lot. In order to boost your credibility, you need to have data, figure, testimonial. Again, if I say, I have the best pen in the world, according to stationery.com, which has surveyed 200 pens across the world, and it has ranked top one in readability, color, and weight. That is so much more credible than just me saying I have the best pen in the world. So
Yeah.
credibility means do your homework and make sure you have data to back it up. And lastly is connection. So many founders are so eager to tell people what they have done and their aspirations and their dream, and they want to invite people to join them. And they just spit out, this is how great I am. This is how amazing that my product could do. And yet they forget pitching, it is a psychological transaction. If you're not
Mhm.
able to build that psychological safety, build that honesty, and build that trust, then you have no connection. The investor will move on. There are way too many founders looking for money that if they're not able to say, I like this guy, I trust this woman, then you're just spending a couple of hours practicing a script that you have written before. That's all.
Right. Right. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this very, very uh, Very knowledgeable. It will help a lot of founders.
I
Let's
hope
talk about,
so.
founders are out there to pitch to investors. From a storytelling perspective, what are the best way for a founder to prepare for a pitch?
Know your investor. First of all, find out who you're going to be speaking with. Do your homework. Um, just a couple of days ago, I gave a talk about preparing for CES, and that's the top thing that we've told the listener is do your homework. Um, if you know that this particular fund or this particular VC is all about defense tech because they're focused on veteran, then somehow package your information and your presentation that will appeal to them. You kind of have to be a little bit of chameleon when you speak to different people. And that means you need to develop an ability to read the room as well. So know your audience. Know your audience. Secondly, come with ammunitions. And what that means is at the most important part of your pitch is the QA, and they're going to pepper you with a bunch of questions. If you don't have the right data, if you don't have the right study, if you don't have the right testimonial, you will look weak and unprepared. Thirdly, be humble. And again, one of our mutual friend Jerry likes to say that investors bet on the jockey and not on the horse. So if you get asked a question and you don't know, simply say, I'll get back to you on that one. Thank you for reminding me that this is something that we need to look into. Or explain why is it something that you haven't looked into. This is the third stage. This is out of the room of our company. But be
Right.
honest, be humble, and also just speak with compassion. You have to understand that these investors might have already heard hundreds of pitches or a dozen that day, and be patient with them. They don't owe you anything. They're not here. They don't owe you a check.
Right.
They're also here trying to help you so you could scale up. Energy matters a lot. But
Mhm.
if I have to pick one, I would say make sure you have the right data to back whatever you want to say. So you look credible.
Mhm. Great. Thank you, Jenny, for that. So let's take a case study of a technology founder. I have been to pitches. I do two pitch events from around the world. Founders come and join it online. And sometime or the other, I'll hear my technology is so advanced. It is very difficult to explain. So obviously, they have lost me. But for the benefit of the technology founders who are listening to this podcast,
Yeah.
Jenny,
Yes.
my technology advanced, it takes a lot of explaining. How do they
Okay.
simplify without losing the substance? How they should approach this dilemma that the technology is so deep tech that I cannot convey it into simpler words. How
Very
can the founder really achieve that goal?
couple of things. One, definitely have your numbers, definitely have your data to back it up. That's going to be the repeated theme throughout this podcast. And two,
Right.
use easy relatable metaphors to help people to help people understand, or at least be relatable. For example, I want to sell you this pen, and I could tell you how well it writes. I could tell you that it has great color. I could tell you that it doesn't bleed through the paper. But for someone who's never had a pen before, that doesn't mean anything.
Mhm.
So what do? Easy. Uh, find a metaphor that was easily relatable.
Mhm.
If you see someone that if you know the person that's standing in front of you, they're wearing shoes, you could say, "My pen is like a pair of comfortable shoes. It helps you write better and quicker and easier." Would you
Mhm.
wear shoes that's uncomfortable? No. Why do you pick a pair of comfortable shoes? So you could have mobility, so you can move from A to B and go see the people that you love. A pen helps you write endearing words for the people you care about. Okay, so
Mhm.
that is just a quick example of how to use metaphor and analogy to illustrate what your product does. I understand that when it comes to AI, when it comes to semiconductor, when it comes to robotic, the technology could be very, very daunting. But if you think about how Jensen Huang talks about his technology, or Steve Jobs talks about technology, they often use simple, easily relatable metaphor. When Steve Jobs first presented the iPod, I don't know if you remember the iPod.
Yeah,
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 yeah. Instead of talking about the CPUs, instead of talking about the chips inside, he said, "This is an iPod, 1,000 songs in your pocket."
yeah,
I
yeah.
that
And he gave an example of your jeans pant, small pocket on the top that it can fit in there.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
1,000 songs in your pocket. So if you're an AI player, tell me, what can your AI do for me? But don't go into, at the end of the day, your product needs to sell. So if I were an investor, I need to start thinking, what's the marketability of this? How are you able to convince an everyday consumer? And if you don't even have a tagline ready and you're so entrenched into your technology, then maybe you're better off just being the manufacturer or a vendor or a supplier,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
not a brand.
Understood.
Yeah.
So many a times a founder who is in early stage, they don't have a traction because they are at an MVP stage or something like that. How do you persuade investors when you don't have a traction in your product or platform?
Yeah, good question. And I would actually also love to hear your thoughts on that one. Um,
Mhm.
for me, when you don't have traction, one, be humble and say, so far we don't have any traction. Two, use other people's studies or use uh, uh, reports to back up why your product is important in day and age. Maybe Gardner has a new report out on why AI technology is so important. Look into what New York Times has written about this field that you're in. Use other people, leverage other reports that are out there as testimonial to support why what you do is important. That would
Yeah,
be my answer.
if you want to take my view on that, it is very simple. I would suggest start with I have interviewed 100, 1,000, 500, whatever those numbers are, potential customer, and they want this product or platform.
That's right.
We
That's
are,
right.
we are building it, but when you say the market is already ready and I have a verbal confirmation from my potential customer, they are waiting for it, then it doesn't matter there is traction or no traction. But
Absolutely.
if
Absolutely.
you just talk to 10 potential customer and no potential customer and say I'm trying to build the best thing that will
Yeah.
chase the trucking companies, and I
Yeah.
haven't spoken to any trucking company that do they have this problem or not, and obviously I don't have a traction because I'm still building, you're just wasting everybody's time.
Oh, 100% agree with you. And it goes back to my earlier point of do your homework. Find out what the market needs. Find out what your vertical is doing and what are challenges of that vertical and how you're able to answer to those challenges. So you're right. Go talk to your potential customers. Go find out why people are suffering and go find out what are some of the solutions that they're dying for,
Yeah.
and that would really really go a long way. Just yesterday I read an article on the Economist, and it's talking about how a vocational school in Hangzhou, China, um, there are about 6,000 students. And when the reporter went to visit the school, a few students, they were doing AI drones, they were doing robotic, they were doing semiconductor. And the interview that she had with the head of the school was he changes the curriculum every single year after he has interviewed about 600 different corporate and find out from the leaders of these big corporate companies what do they believe to be the future skills that they will lack. and
Right.
he pivots his curriculum based on those interviews. So his students, when they graduate, they will be appropriate for the skills that would be needed at that time.
Mhm.
So
So
preempt,
they, yeah, go.
that's it. So preempt the market is also a very tasty way of attracting your investors.
So Jenny, everybody is not a good speaker. So
Yeah.
somebody who doesn't have a formal training in speaking, how they can master the art of pitching?
Good. Very, you know what? Again, that's a question I get many, many times. I would say practice, practice, practice. Yo-Yo Ma was not created from day one. He practiced thousands, if not millions of times over and over again. No one is born an amazing speaker. So take the time, invest the time, stand in front of the mirror, get a buddy to practice with you. If you don't do that, then any skills that you might hear today will not mean a thing. So you have to put in the time and the work to do it. Secondly, speak slower. When the reason why some people have a hard time speaking in public is because they get flustered. And when we speak too fast, where our minds just work double times, and then we're trying to get everything out, get everything out, get everything out. We're not allowing our brain to slow down a little bit and to reflect what we just said 10 nanoseconds ago. When you're able to slow down, able to take pauses, able to uh, give your listener time to digest what you have to say, that energy in the room will be a lot softer, and you will also feel a lot more confident in expressing yourself. Thirdly, I often say first write a script, look at your script, practice your script 20, 30 times, and then throw away that script. Then use your bullet point. Okay.
Mhm.
If public speaking is difficult for you, a lot of times is trying because you're trying to memorize way too many things. So if you're able
Mhm.
to practice your script multiple times, again, 20, 30, 50, 100 times if that's what it takes, and then throw that script away because you don't want to rely on a script. You need to have the ability to read the room, but make sure you have your bullets, and
Mhm.
that would really help you. Um, and lastly, it's a mental thing. It's not going to be the end of the world if you botch up this pitch. It's
Mhm.
you're not going to die if you somehow fumble on stage. Your reputation will not be forever ruined if you do badly on a podcast. Give yourself a break.
Right.
Just make sure that you're able to self-reflect, do better, and then you're on to your next thing. Don't give yourself such a hard time. If when you become anxious, your energy is anxious and you speak anxiously.
Right. Right. Now let's talk about the hidden superpower, active listening. Listening to understand, not to reply, verbal plus non-verbal cues, and make people safe and respected.
That's right.
Read
Yeah.
about it. What does active listening actually look like in high-stake conversation when a founder is talking to an investor? How it should go about?
Okay. So in communication, there are mainly three parts. There's the
Mhm.
output, is what you say. There is the input, is what you hear. And the third part is the reflection. And those three parts work in a loop. Every conversation is based on these three parts: output, input, reflection. Then you output, and then you input, and then reflection. So active listening will be the input part. One, I often tell my clients that one of your biggest superpower is to ask the right question and to ask the right follow-up question. When you're able
Mhm.
to ask smart, intelligent questions, you are showing your wisdom. You're showing that you are contemplating and methodically thinking of what the problem is and be able to find out more, and you're interested to find out what the other person is saying to you. But that doesn't come unless you're able to hear them and listen to them. um, again, this morning when I asked my nephew to pick up his socks, he heard me, but when I went back upstairs, he still pick up his socks, so he didn't listen. He heard my voice, but he did not internalize it. So when you're speaking to an investor, hear what they have to say, but start with asking smart question. You're not going to have anything to hear unless you have something output from the other person, right? And so in order to be a good listener, be a good question asker. And then take that answer, really listen. Now, decipher. Are they trying to find out? Are they trying to challenge you? What exactly are they really saying? If someone says, you know, uh, thank you for telling me about your technology, but it's not the right time. What
Mhm.
they're really saying is, tell me why is the urgency.
Mhm.
Articulate the urgency of your technology in my field. If someone said, thanks for sharing, but I already have a supplier that gives me roughly the same technology. What they're really saying is, what's your differentiation? What's your unique value proposition? And so when you're able to listen between the lines, then you're able to give targeted answer, and then the conversation will go a much better route from then on.
Right, right. Let's talk about charisma, the presence that feels natural. How do you define charisma in communication?
Charisma is warmth plus competence. Again, charisma is warmth plus competence. You have to exude this energy that you're open and that you are happy to share, and you are very, very glad that you're there to speak with these people. You need to be able to give off the energy that you fully believe in your own product, and you believe your product will really, really change the world, and it matters. So that comes with the way you carry yourself. I often like to tell my clients that you need, when you speak to people, the distance between your earlobe and your shoulder should be very, very long, because your neck should be elongated. You're listening, you're confident, and you're projecting power. So that's one part about charisma, and the other
Mhm.
part is competence. Um, if you are very charismatic, if you are very joyful and you're smiling all the time, but yet you don't really know what you're talking about, that conversation will last about 2 seconds, and then you will become, that person is good to know, but not a must know.
Mhm.
It becomes quite a few. It may feel very much like a used car salesman. I hate to use that phrase, but yeah, you're very charismatic. You're fun to be around, but there's not much there. So real charisma is when you have warmth plus true competence.
Understood. How about the body language? On these days, a lot of pitch events happens, Jenny, on Zoom or some of the online platform, be it Google Meet or whatever. If a presenter is presenting this type of a frame, a square
Yes,
frame,
yes, yes.
what should be the
Great.
body language?
One, always make, as humans, when we talk to people, we like to have eye contact. And so that is actually something that you do not do when you're online. Make sure your eyes are fixing on the green dot or whatever red dot on your camera. That's
The camera. Yeah.
the camera. That's right. That's where you want to look at. Keep a smile. Have open gestures. Be able to speak with your hands. If for example, when I talked about there are 4 C's in communication, I said there are 4 C's. One, consistency, connection, conciseness, and credibility. So speak with
Yeah.
your hands. And definitely make sure that the framing is correct. Um, you're not off to the side, you're not too small, you're not hugging the camera. The idea is to make it comfortable and easy for people to absorb you.
Hmm.
Remove as many distractions as possible. There was one time I was talking to a client and actually giving some pretty important uh, presentation, and I made the mistake of not closing my door, so my cat came, and all of a sudden there was his tail coming through the screen. Um, I felt really, really embarrassed, and I believe that actually dented my credibility in front of this client. So make
Hmm.
sure you remove distractions. And lastly, speak slower. Speak slower. There's, if you especially if you're a non-native speaker, speed is not your friend.
Hmm.
Clarity is your friend. Speak
Hmm.
slower. I work with clients from Taiwan and China, and sometimes they have accents. And those accents, if you're trying to pitch to an English speaking audience, could be a distraction. Um, I'll often advise them, apart from speaking slower, use simpler words. If the word outperform is hard for you to pronounce, use the word better. Yeah, if growth is hard for you to say scale it up. And if you can, I would advise work with a speech pathologist and try to minimize your accents. Accents could be very, very endearing, but it could also be a distraction.
Right. So yeah, that was my next question about talking about cross-cultural founders,
Yeah.
because you help a lot of companies from Hong Kong, from Taiwan, and help them come and do business here in the US, raise funds
Yes.
here in the US, mentor them in the US. And communication is a big part. If I can't understand you, I can't respond to you. Uh, so give
Yes.
me some examples. This was the example that you just gave. If you can't pronounce growth, say scale up, uh, speak slowly,
That's right.
do hand gesture.
Yes.
Uh, some Give me some other examples, that you have gone through. A speech pathologist is a good one, that if you're really trying to raise funds here in the US with US investors, you need to
Yes.
communicate. If they can't understand, they can't respond. Give
That's
me some
right.
examples.
That's right. So I've worked with this founder. His pronunciation was okay. We were able to slow him down a little bit. And by watching a lot of American TVs, he learned a few phrases here and there. And I remember when we had the practice section, a session, he started with, "Yo, bro." And I said, "That's great if you're trying to invite someone to a barbecue." And that's
Right.
also a very American way. But culturally, you're correct. That's how
Mhm.
Americans often like to greet each other. Yo, bro. But
Yeah.
that's inappropriate when you're talking to an investor.
Right.
And so oftentimes, when you start using slang, that shows that you're a friendly person, but it doesn't tell me how innovative or how intelligent you are as a founder. As an investor, I want to work with someone who's mature, sophisticated, who is stable, and who knows when to use humor and how to use it appropriately. Because
Mhm.
if I want to back you up and I might have to, introduce you to other investors, I don't want you to embarrass me. So it is important to understand how to use humor, especially when you're coming from a different culture. How to speak to female investors, how to greet them, how to end a conversation. All that I think takes a lot of finesse, especially for our non-American or non-native speakers, to make sure you have all that down before you go. Yeah.
If there is a non-confidential example that you can share with me, a memorable story of a founder that you had. and how they flourish after going through your program
Yeah,
or
yeah,
after partnering with you. Yeah.
yeah. I love this client dearly. He has actually become a lifelong friend. When I when I started working with, I actually started working with the CEO and helped them shape their brand messaging. And he's the CRO, which is the Chief Revenue Officer. So he didn't participate in our discussion quite often, but we became friendly. And then one day, one of his assistants came up to me and said, "You know, my boss would love to know how to talk better." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "There are actually some team members that don't understand what he's talking about, and they blindly just say yes to him because they don't even know what questions to ask. So our team's productivity gets stifled because our boss isn't explaining things clearly and our teammates are too timid to ask the question." So I
Mhm.
ended up working with him. He was so humble and he was so eager to learn. He showed up every single workshop, every single training with his homework done. He was willing to practice over and over again. And he was not at all embarrassed. He is a Taiwanese man who grew up in India, so he spoke with an accent. Can you imagine speaking with a Chinese and Indian accent blended together? So we were able to work around that. Um, by the end of the eighth week, he was able to be a solo speaker at a huge stablecoin summit, international summit held in Singapore, and he commanded the audience. And afterwards, they were potential investors and clients that all came up to him and said, "I got it. Let's talk." So that's one of my favorite stories. But I think his secret sauce was he was so humble and so ready to learn, and he was willing to put in the work. And he recognized his shortcoming.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm. Okay, so if you have to sum everything up about the storytelling in a founder's life, give me some closing statement. Thinking of a founder who is multinational, coming from Taiwan, trying to raise funds here in US, what will make their life easier?
one, be concise. Be concise. Two, be genuine and authentic. Three, be introspective. Storytelling and public speaking is not something that's easy to do. And so you have to be able to be humble and reassess what you have done and reassess your performance so you can practice again. So make sure you know your products well, make sure your intention is pure, and make sure you're putting the work and be humble about it.